Let's talk Pac-12. The last Civil War, for the time being. Oregon State at Oregon. Oregon was favored by 13.5. We were both in Oregon 13.5. That cashed. They dominated. Let me give you a drive recap here, too. Also, bottom line, Oregon is very good, right? Oregon drives. They had an 8-minute touchdown drive, a 3-minute touchdown drive. Then they had a 6-minute drive where they missed a field goal. They scored a touchdown in 50 seconds. That drive was insanely impressive. That ended in a Troy Franklin touchdown with a great throw by Bo Nix across his body. And then they
That
kicked the
was in
field goal.
response, real quick. That was in response to a touchdown for Oregon State with
Mm-hmm.
about a minute to go, less than a minute to go, at the end of the first half to cut it to 7
Mm-hmm. And
lead.
then right out of half, they went down, kicked the field goal, and then they scored another touchdown. And then the thing is, though, is like I don't think like Oregon only scored 10 points in the second half, but they didn't throttle down. Like Oregon State, their drives took a while, right? Because I mean, Oregon State was operating under 4 downs, right? The, the last two possessions right that Oregon had, uh, that last possession before they took a knee, they threw the ball 3 straight times with like 4 minutes left, up 24. They're trying to get the style points there. I think they know that they need to get the style points here, and they were trying to do that. And I think they did a good job of doing that. Right? They didn't need to add it on. Like this game was dominating. DJU,
That and Bo Nix too. What's his
yeah,
Heisman?
yeah. Damian Martinez, uh, shut down for the most part. So I mean, this was a heck of a game by Oregon. This is an absolutely fantastic team that I think personally, based on eye test, not necessarily resume right now, looks good enough to be in the college football playoffs and compete.
And if they show up, it's going to be a real debate, and we'll get into that when we get there. Obviously, in conference championship week, certain scenarios, what happens if who wins? But you mentioned it. Oregon has just looked like on another class than everybody else in the Pac-12, besides Washington. Same time, like Washington's also kind of trending down since that game. Oregon's a pretty hefty favorite. I think it's about 9. It opened at 9, which is pretty insane considering the same team that they lost to, just a couple months ago. But yeah, they're looking so good. DJU, I thought played fine. Like there was just a different
They
caliber
couldn't run the ball.
athlete.
They couldn't run the ball,
Yeah.
which is crazy for that offensive line. Which if
Oh
you're
yeah.
if you're opposing teams right now, you're really nervous. Like I don't think you want to see Oregon in this playoffs.
Mm-mm. You see, Mateo got a sack on his brother.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. That was
It
pretty
is,
awesome.
but yeah, to me, the takeaway here is Oregon's a damn good team, and they did what they had to do. Where
Yep.
everyone else struggled, other than Texas. Texas obviously pissed out of Texas Tech. Everyone else struggled. Georgia, right? Bama didn't look great. Washington didn't look great. Like you dominated. You did your thing against a pretty darn good Oregon State team. Now I do think yeah, there's yeah. I'll say. I mean, you were favored by 2 touchdowns. Like you're supposed to win. You're supposed to look like this, but not to this level, right? Like this
Yeah.
was really impressive. And it wasn't even the
Yeah.
run game either. Like it was just Bo Nix chucking it deep, and that secondary I know has been exposed a couple times. So you that was the right, obviously it worked out there, but
If you're an Oregon State fan, this was an all-time terrible weekend. Of course, Jonathan Smith goes to MSU
oh,
to take that job, not unlike Mike Riley did those years ago when he went to Nebraska. After both those guys just winning football at Oregon State, which is not necessarily common, right? And those are like either a hometown guy, Mike Riley, who's a grew up in Corvallis, or Jonathan Smith, who went to OSU. The weird thing is like the splash hire, the Gary Anderson, the hiring between those two was the guy that didn't work out. So it's really tough to figure out where you want to go because this is a very vulnerable spot that Oregon State's in, not in the conference,
you need to hit this higher. This is
needing to get this
they
high
know
right.
it. They know it. They have to hit this higher.
Yeah, I mean Jonathan Smith and Mike Riley are two of the winningest coaches all time at Oregon State. Well, I'm pretty sure Jonathan Smith left with a losing record, but the state of the program that he left it in is better than majority of the coaches. I think Mike Riley's the all-time winningest coach at Oregon State. But Scott Barnes, the AD over at Oregon State, the guy, which by the way, he did hire Jonathan Smith, and he was the guy who fired Gary Anderson. And also, if you're forgetting, Gary Anderson was at Utah State, or sorry, yeah, well, yeah, Gary Anderson was at Utah State when Scott Barnes was at Utah State, so they knew each other very well. So so Scott Barnes did the thing that he had to do to put the program in the position to win. You know, so I think Oregon State fans trust Scott Barnes. I really think they do. Let's hope he gets it right, man. I really hope. I love when Oregon State's playing good football, but it just sucks right now. It really just does suck.
Is this about this is a better job than Boise State, right? It it
Yes,
is. Okay.
yes.
Then
I
yeah,
think
then
your quality of life in Corvallis is very high.
and the expectation, no, yeah, like it is hard to win there, but there's talent there right now.
Well, now it's not
And
hard to win there because you're in the Mountain West
but
with
like,
more resources.
yeah, that's true. That's
So
true.
I think it's underratedly a pretty decent job. I would imagine that they hire someone with West Coast ties. Hopefully, like maybe like someone who's an Oregon State alum. I don't have any names on mind. We'll be talking that more. Uh, Potential hires. I'm sure they'll take their time with it, but they'll be
The
thorough.
thing
They'll
is,
be thorough.
if you're Oregon State here though, for the season, I know 8-4 is a tremendous success considering that the last decade has been Beaver football, but like you had three, tough losses that were a field goal or less, and that could have been this could have been a special season. And now you're 8-4 and your coach is gone. It's got to be frustrating. I feel for you. We rooting for you all year long. We are big Beaver fans here, hoping that everything works out for you. We'll see though. I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better. But it will get better. It will.